you might look at treasuries. Could you explain that a little bit? What kind of fraud, and that question goes to both of you, what kind of fraud are you expecting to see or do you see right now in U.S. treasuries?
Yeah, I think you mean the Treasury Department as opposed to Treasury bills, or...
You also referenced treasuries on your first one the other night.
Go ahead. Well, as I mentioned earlier, really, the first order of business is to make sure we're actually collecting. Sorry for this. I thought my son might enjoy this, but he's sticking his fingers in my ears and stuff. So it's been hard to hear sometimes. Hey, stop that. The stuff we're doing with the Treasury Department is so basic that you can't believe it doesn't exist already. So for example, like I mentioned, just making sure that when a payment goes out, it has to have a payment categorization code. It's like, what type of payment is this? You can't just leave the field blank. Currently, many payments, the field is left blank. And you have to describe what's the payment for, some basic rationalization. That also is left blank. So this is why, the Pentagon, when's the last time the Pentagon passed an audit? I mean, a decade ago, maybe? Ever? Really? And we want to, just in order to actually pass audits, you have to have financial information that allows you to trace the payments. And once in a while, the Treasury has to pause payments if it thinks the payment is going to a fraudulent organization.
Over the country and to, as we say, make America great again, but you don't have the right to go and look and see.
The press conference with Donald Trump and Elon Musk just now. And it was an important press conference. It was a press conference that Donald Trump and Elon Musk needed to have had. And not only that, it shows that Donald Trump is responsive, his government is responsive to concerns and to the critics, because people were concerned about DOGE, they wanted more information. First of all, people have been asking for DOGE and for Elon Musk to undergo some kind of scrutiny, to go before Congress and so on and so forth, to be investigated and what right they have. First of all, Donald, he served at the behest of the president. The people nominated, elected, voted for Donald Trump, and part of his reform, part of his platform was to reform the government. He has asked Elon Musk to do so. This is another billionaire to another billionaire. They have voted for a billionaire to do the job that the government was not doing. And I'm going to tell you the truth, I've been speaking with a lot of Americans, Democrats and Republicans, independent alike, and many of them, I mean, Donald Trump has a lot of detractions, he has a lot of failings. But God would use someone with the failings in order to restore and to do the tough job at repositioning America, because America was falling, was declining. And in order for America to rebound, America and the government, and it took strong leadership. They have to make uncomfortable and unpopular decisions. And I said to people, I'm not a Democrat or Republican, I'm an independent, but I'm a clear-minded person. Donald Trump had a lot of failings, but he's doing a lot of things that needed to have been done in order to preserve the exceptionality of the U.S. Not that I am against privilege, but that this is, but we live in a competitive world, and I've said that in the book Globalization, Neoliberalism, Globalization, my book. I've talked about the competitive world that we live in. China, Russia, the BRIC countries are working against the U.S. It is not in America's interest for these other countries to overtake the U.S. And so there are some decisions that he's making which are unpopular. He had a press conference today, and I believe it was a very good press conference. The press conference answered some questions. However, what I didn't say, they asked about transparency and accountability. Elon Musk said that they have a website, and they have a website where they post all their actions and operations and findings and so on, and they also post it on X. That, for a government institution that's set to reform government, that's not enough. Okay, to be honest, that's to say that you're going to post it on the website is not enough. It's not enough. Um, However, to come out there to have a press conference like the one they had today and to answer certain questions, that's good. That is accountability. So therefore, he's already doing it by coming out there and having raw press conferences like these, answering questions, the question of the press or the people through the press. This is good. This is one way of doing it. And of course, we need to know who are the members of the staff. How do they go about investigating companies or auditing countries? But to be honest, government need to be audited. And what they said today, they talk about efficient competence and care. Those words are easy words, but however, there are many people who are hurting today. But at the same time, one of the things that Ricardo and I have discussed is how we go about doing it. It can't be callous, it can't be draconian. Elon Musk is defending his actions or DOGE's actions, saying that they're not callous, they're not callous, they're not draconian, but there are people, there are workers who work for many of these federal government who are saying that they feel as though they're being bullied out of their jobs in order to realize DOGE's goals. And I believe that that's something that we have to take into consideration. We can't push people out of their jobs. There are labor laws that I believe that we have to consider. And when we talk about government efficiency, usually the first thing that the government never seek to cut workers. Businesses and private companies, the first thing that they'll do is cut workers. Anytime they talk about efficiency or they want to maximize profit and cut efficiency, they always talk about cutting the workers. But government never think about cutting workers. It's probably the last thing that they do. But they're cutting the workers. They talk about government efficiency, and the first thing that they're doing in terms of, because they talk about they're operating at the deficit, trillions of dollars. The U.S. is $1 trillion in debt, and so one of the things that they're trying to do is they're trying to cut. Their departments try to cut labor costs to thin out the government. That is what the private sector would do. But here now we have two billionaire businessmen who are doing what the private sector would do whenever, in order to maximize profits or payout for the American people. The next thing we know, fine, if they're cutting government, in other words, to maximize profits and gains for the American people, the American people must feel it. It can't, the gains can't just, the tax cuts can't just be going to the rich. It has to be going to the people at the bottom and the people in the middle as well. But something needs to have been done, and I'm happy that this is being done, to be honest. But there has to be some kind of organization to it. There have to be some kind of care and sensibility. Saying care is different from behaving with care, acting with care. You can't. I believe that I don't believe that you should up and just tell companies that you have 10 days to find another job or to accept a buyout. I believe that they have to sit down at the table and negotiate and have a discussion with these people. People have been working for these agencies for years, for 20 years, 30 years. Some of these agencies are not acting efficiently because, not the workers, but because of the leadership, the people at the top. They also need to have a discussion with the people at the top. But by dismantling the agency and getting rid of them altogether is not the best way. I think the best way, the first thing you have to do, I believe, is first look at how these companies are operating and take steps to holding the people, the leaders of these government agencies accountable. That is not happening. That did not happen. And of course there are some agencies that we don't need, that we can also save Americans money. So, but we have some clips of the president and Elon Musk today. We'll show. I'm going to share that with you, and I also have a brief discussion talking about a discussion I had with somebody about the duplicity duplicity in professionalism in the sense that workers, employers, including government employers, want loyalty, the private, both public and private sector want loyalty within their staff, but they do not. They are not loyal, and the policy and the way in which they go about dismissing people and define that, and in terms of they have these loose words about hiring people at will, and they have people like President Trump who gets up and say, okay, we don't need that agency, you guys find another job and terminate. That's a problem, but yet still they are expecting their employers to be loyal. That is duplicitous. I talk about that.
Right, you got elected to look over the country and to, as we say, make America great again, but you don't have the right to go and look and see whether or not things are right that they're paying, or that things are honest that they're paying. And nobody can even believe this. Other people, law professors, they've been saying, how can you take that person's right away? You're supposed to be running the country, but we're not allowed to look at who they're paying it to and what they're paying. We have massive amounts of fraud that we caught. I think we probably caught way over a lot of billions of dollars already in, 2 weeks?
Yes.
And it's going to go to numbers that you're not going to believe. And much, as I said, much is incompetence and much is dishonesty. We have to catch it. And the only way we're going to catch it is to look for it. And if a judge is going to say you're not allowed to look for it, that's pretty sad for our country. I don't understand how it could even work.
The buyout program, can you personally guarantee that?
Which one?
The buyout program, the offer to federal workers. Can you personally guarantee that the workers who opt in to resign now will be paid through
Well,
September?
they'll get their money, but they're getting a good deal. They're getting a big buyout. And what we're trying to do is reduce government. We have too many people. We have office space. It's occupied by 4%. Nobody's showing up to work because they were told not to. And then Biden gave them a 5-year pass, some of them, 48,000 of them, gave them a 5-year pass, that for 5 years you don't have to show up to work. And let me tell you, this is largely, much of this stuff is because of Biden. It's his fault. He allowed this country, what he did on our border. What he did on our border is almost not as bad as what he did with all of these contracts that have come out. It's a very sad day when we look at it. I can't even believe it. But many contracts just extend and they just keep extending, and there was nobody there to correct it. And that cannot be, I can't imagine that could be held up by the court. Any court that would say that the president or his representatives, like Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of State, whatever, doesn't have the right to go over their books and make sure everything's honest. I mean, how can you have a country? You can't have anything that way. You can't have a business that way. You can't have a country that way. Hey, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press. Head it out.
I have a scathing article. I have a scathing article.
About who? About what?
Well, it's about workplace, the one-sided reality of workplace loyalty. I wrote.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
What is that?
I
What are you
pu-
talking about?
and I made it
Solid
quite.
reality of-
Yes, the one
Are you
side.
referring to your workplace?
No, just workplace, just work, a professional industry or work in general in the world, in life. I said
Yes.
because employees across industries, they demand loyalty from their employers and from their employees. Yet they
Yes.
operate under at-will policies, or they impose ultimatums that undermine job security.
Yes.
And I
yes.
think that loyalty should be a two-way street, but in practice, it is often one-sided, marked by duplicity and hypocrisy. Don't you think so?
I mean, it is. They do want loyalty from their employees, but man,
I didn't want to
I'll tell
talk
you.
too much about it because, say, for example, in Jamaica, a hotel refuses to pay salary bonuses, and they're actively fighting against compensating workers what they are rightfully owed, and then the government of Jamaica seems complicit, offering workers less than half the money. And this is not an isolated incident, but it's part of a broader trend where employers expect employees to go beyond and above and beyond. Yet wages and benefits are squeezed through narrow loopholes disguised as merit-based or performance-based pay. First of all, look at Donald Trump. Look what he's doing. He's applying a laundry of immediate actions aimed at buying out federal workers or terminating thousands of workers and several agencies by unilaterally freezing needed government spending that pay federal workers or benefits that pay indirect workers, government workers. And he does so without apology. So I mean, so the article highlights that. I mean, and it highlights if businesses genuinely or employers genuinely want loyalty and productivity, they must build it into their systems through their fair wages, job security, respect for workers' rights. Instead, we have a system that, while offering some benefits, often mirror exploitative labor conditions, only marginally better than servitude. And true progress requires a shift toward equity, where workers are valued not just for their output, but for their humanity. So that's what the article is about.